Good morning, life science students. Mr. Eaton here. Beginning of week 5, and I know I didn't really get back to any of you last week other than personal emails to a few. I got myself wrapped up on correcting papers of students who have taken extensions from the spring course, and today is their deadline day. So many of the students were frantically turning in things at the last minute. And so I was having to be there to support and also answer questions. Anyway, today, in the beginning of this week 5, which, if you're going by a graduated scale in terms of your schedule and spreading out the lessons for the self-paced course, you may find yourself in lesson 3. Some of you, I realize, are in lesson 4 and 5. You're really moving quickly through the coursework, and that's fine. And I am going to be, this week, I'm going to be focused on correcting your papers and getting things in. And also, I will be back on with you later this week. And as you get into the third and fourth lessons, and especially as you get into genetics, you're going to find some terminology and some things you may not be as familiar with. But genetics is a fascinating study. And as you work your way through it, what I want to do for this week is to give you an alternative to doing the term paper for the course, which is due at the end of the 10 weeks. The traditional term paper is based on evolution versus creation, and with a section treating alternative views such as intelligent design and theistic evolution, which is not quite as prevalent now as it was a few years ago, but that's the gist of the term paper. And the instructions are in the syllabus for you, and you can read those very carefully. If you have questions, of course, you can ask me, but be sure you read the requirements for the term paper so you can be thinking about it as you go through this middle part of the course. Now, as an alternative, what I want to offer is a project doing an interactive journal. You would use PowerPoint or Keynote. Either of those would work very well. The presentation does not have to be really fancy, but many of you are very creative, and especially if you happen to be a communications major with interdisciplinary studies or a biblical studies major with an emphasis on communication, whatever your major is, if you happen to be involved in communications at Moody, you might want to consider this as a way to practice some of your skills and put together an interactive journal covering lessons 2 through 8 in the syllabus. And as you go through those lessons and do your lesson guides and are doing your responsive writings, if you choose to do this project, what I'd like you to do is make notes of things throughout that lesson, each lesson, that are standing out for you. Maybe even to the point of going online and researching some of the graphic material, and there are actually short video segments of some of the processes. There's an excellent video in YouTube on cell division. Actually, there's several, and you have to be kind of selective. But on cell division, there's an excellent section in YouTube that talks a little bit about Mendel's studies with genetics. There are some wonderful graphics on the structure of the cell as you get into some of the controversial subjects. There are other websites that have information, but the point being to keep an interactive journal and create a lesson-by-lesson exposition of some of the things that you have learned that have stood out for you, and maybe things you relearned from high school biology or what have you, but things that have made an impact on you. and put those together as a collective journal. Now, a journal is like a book. It has a flow, it has a theme to it. And so you'll have to work that out. I will have a more comprehensive outline for you later this week. Yes, I am working on that outline. I did not get it completed last week, but it will be coming this week. And on that, you will have more instruction in detail on how to structure your journal. And of course, use a little bit of artistic license, but you want to make the file compact enough that when you are finished and you have saved it, and if it has sound files and video or certainly photographic or graphic files that are attached to it, you have to include those with them. And remember, in a journal, you have to have a caption that gives credit to the resource where you found your materials. You can't just put materials up in a presentation and say, here's my presentation. You have to give credit, a proper citation for every item that you take, whether from the internet, from a book, or what have you. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be back later to give you more detailed information, but for now, an interactive journal using either PowerPoint or Keynote as a method of doing it, unless you're really, really good with iMovie or with another movie making program. I will have a Dropbox folder that I'm going to create and set up. I will send you an invitation to it, and then by that invitation you can connect to the Dropbox folder, and that's where you will deposit your project, your interactive journal. So with that said, I'll leave it with you and get this sent. God bless, have a great week, and please, again, keep in touch with questions, concerns. I will be doing quite a bit of work later today on this and also throughout the week. So blessings, and have a good week of study and growing.